This is Matt Ortiz again. This is my lesson for comprehension. All right, it's titled "The Life and Times of the Ant." All right, we're going to use our signposts for this activity. It's for fourth grade. It's set for 55 minutes. Have PA core standards. Read and comprehend literary nonfiction and informational text on grade level. Reading independently. All right. And then the next standard, read with accuracy and fluency to support comprehension. Read on level text with purpose and understanding. Read on level text orally with accuracy, appropriate rate, and expression on successive readings. Use context to confirm or self-correct word recognition and understanding. Rereading as necessary. Okay, so those comprehension pieces we're focusing on here. Okay, so objectives. All right. Before, students will be able to understand the signpost used in understanding this nonfiction text. Teacher will use an anchor chart and a graphic organizer to emphasize that, to show how to draw and write in a diagram in order to show how text features can help with comprehension text. I did that really quickly. Just to establish this all, for the students. All right. During students will use signposts for comprehension with the support of the teacher, and they will use diagram to more thoroughly understand the text. After, students will be able to show comprehension by working on their own version of the big three ideas, including what surprised me, what did the author think I knew, and what challenged me. Okay. So for materials, copies of The Life and Times of the Ant, author and illustrated by Charles Michucci, uh, from the Journey textbook. Supplemental resource would be the copies of Ants of All Kinds by Ann Casper, another Houghton Mifflin resource. Then anchor charts, notice and note graphic organizer worksheet, the big three worksheet, pencil, paper, and markers. All right. So before reading, motivator, set of purpose, students will be directed to the attention of the anchor chart, where the teacher will explain signposts and how we can make our connections to our story. Post an image of the graphic organizer on the board and go through the signposts and highlighting the meaning of each section. All right, then teacher, I will go ahead and say the first section says contrast and contradiction. Circle the word contrast. We've used that word before in reading. Where have you heard it before, right? I'm going to take ideas, look for compare and contrast. Contrast means different, and point that out. Teacher will go on to say, so this section should be where the author in a story is contrasting two ideas to make a point. All right. Next, we're going to look at extreme absolute language. If something is extreme, give a few examples of extreme, like Antarctica is extreme with coldness, Mount Everest is extreme with height, right? So extreme, we're looking at like it's a distinct difference, right? There's no misunderstanding us, right? We're just being very clear. We're going to take students' ideas, looking for an idea about extreme being to the limits, like very, very much so. All right, teacher, I'll go ahead and say, is this in this section an author would be trying to make a point, right? How extreme a subject is. All right, we're going to dark double line the word extreme so that can stand out, okay? And then use some emphasis here. I'm going to go ahead and say, ooh, I like this one. We're going to talk about the numbers and nonfiction. Why would we have that? Turn to your partner and try to think of a reason. All right, give wait time. Then I'll go ahead and explain that we're trying to give like details, facts to support ideas. We want to shock the reader, teach them something they didn't know. So, like in our text, we're going to see billions, right? Billions just stands out. It's so much bigger than one. All right, when we're looking at something with an ant, if there's billions of something, whether it's weight or an item, like it's just a lot, right? So it really shocks us, really shocks the reader. Teacher, I'll go ahead to say circle the numbers, circle the word numbers, all right? Quoted words in the section, and this one might show up, but it might not, all right? So the quoted words is, all right, so sometimes we use those punctuation. I'm going to ask the kids to put up like air quotes, make your air quotes, right? I'm going to ask them what would that look like, and that should be the response. If they don't, I will elaborate, showing them the air quotes. All right. Sometimes we don't always see quotes in this kind of text. Finally, we have the word gaps box. If we have a gap, that means there's a blank spot. We don't know what goes there, right? This would be when the author uses a word that we don't know, we didn't go over yet, right? So like a big word like stratosphere or volcanic, right? Something that's just so out of there that we haven't gone over it yet, right? Maybe it's just something we just haven't seen it written down, so it just kind of looks a little different when it's actually written, all right? If it's a word that we need to understand, we're gonna get around to our word gap. All right, we're gonna box that in to so that that stands out. Okay, when we come across it. All right, so going back to our vocabulary strategies. Okay, so during the reading, use the organizer as a guide to help you read through the text. Life and times of an ant, of the ant. Stopping along the way at each stopping point noted. Help the students fill in the two columns, page numbers and textual evidence. Leave the reader response column blank for now. All right, so I'll go over this example, right? Uh, as a teacher, I'll say we will talk about how a story can be broken into parts by using text features such as signposts to keep track of comprehension along the way. We're going to take notes using our notice and note graphic organizer. As we read, follow along, wait for my signal, which sounds like this, ding. When you hear that sound, stop and quickly note down the page number, all right, where we found it, all right, and the fact, all right. Find a fact, all right, anywhere on that page. It seems like it'll stand out and go into one of our categories, okay? So want to note in the graphic organizer, basically our note and notice graphic organizer. Let's do an example together, all right? You don't have much time for each stopping point, so make sure you're on your toes. We want to just get like a quick jot down, a quick little note, maybe a few words, right? And then when later you're gonna partner up, you're gonna come back to this, and then you're gonna elaborate on the actual sentence, right? We're going to elaborate then on the reader response that we're not going to get to quite yet. We're going to get to it after the reading activity. So we're going to break down what you think things mean, things like that. All right. Teacher reads, for example, all right, page 354, Masters of the Earth, stopping at perhaps they do. Teacher, ding, we're on page 354. Think about your facts we just read on this page that might fit into one of these categories from your organizer. Looking at this, I'm wondering about the word dynasty. I'd fill in under the category word gaps, right? We really didn't cover dynasty yet, all right? So let's try to think about what it might mean. As I look around the text to find some way to understand this word, I see a timeline. How can this word help me? Sorry. How can this help me understand the word dynasty? Take student ideas. Looking for ideas about time stretching for a long distance. Use the timeline to understand the definition, right? So under word gaps, put down the page number, right? It'll actually be right beside it, all right? And then under textual evidence, okay, we're gonna put dynasty in a sentence, right? The dynasty stretches from the time of the dinosaurs to today, right? For time purposes, if you need to write dynasty in a word in front and behind, and then we can come back and elaborate it so we have the flow with the book. Okay. All right. Then leave the reader response section empty for now. We'll come back to that soon. Continue reading aloud and stopping along the way at each stopping point. Use the sound signal to tell the students what category in the graphic organizer they're looking for. All right, looking to fill in. All right, then we're going to stop at 359 for a number, 500,000 loads of dirt. Teacher, ding. What category do you think that belongs to, right? All right, give some wait time, take student responses. Yes, it's going to be numbers and stats. That's correct. All right, because we see a clear number. Stopping at page 363. It specializes in ants and termites. All right, ding. All right, going to give you a hint. Expressive absolute language. All right, specializes in eating ants and termites. All right, it's very specific. Okay. All right, but I give them options, okay? Is it expressive absolute language or quoted words? All right. If it's going to be quoted words, we're going to have those quotation marks, all right? Do you see quotation marks? Wait for them to assess, and then take an answer. No, we don't see that. So it's absolute language, okay? Make sure we're putting that in that same section. Note the page, all right, as well as the textual evidence section. We're getting a sentence or at least a few words in there we'll come back to and elaborate. Stop at page 355 for an ant can lift a seed 5 times its weight, while an elephant can lift a log only 1/5 of its weight. Teacher, this is page 355. Where will we where will we be writing down this fact? Sorry, I need to take a drink of water. Where will we be writing down this fact? It's comparing how much an elephant lifts to how much an ant lifts. What do we think? Take student responses. Correct answer. It's contrasting, right? Contrasts and contradictions, right? We have two different kinds of animals, very large, very small, big differences in the amount that they're lifting, right? But we can see that even though an ant is very small, it can lift way more than how much it weighs, right? Based on its weight, right? Pound for pound. All right, reading to the end of the story, filled in the sections, okay? All right, so we realized that we didn't use the quotes. We're going to talk about that for a second. All right, then after the reading, all right, students will partner up and go over the post sign graphic organizer, taking time to elaborate about each part of the signpost in the reader response section. All right, so this is the time to make those breakdowns, okay? So we will also go back into the text, right? Find additional pieces. Like I found a bunch over here. These great like numbers and stats facts, and they're just kind of like aha moments that just really are shocking. Um, so going back to take in some of that, as well as revisiting the reader response section and breaking down what we think something means, right? What's the translation to work on that comprehension? Okay. Teacher, I'll go ahead and say, okay, now it's time for the visitor response section of our page. We will go through and make our connections to the textual evidence and put it in their own words, right? We're looking for their own words to show that they are having comprehension, right? I want to assess them on how well they comprehended um, the information. Let's go back to our example. The dynasty was used for word gaps, and the textual evidence stated that the dynasty stretches back from the time of the dinosaurs to today. With your partner, discuss what that might mean. Look at the chart below as a context clue to determine the length of time that ants have been around and what that might have to do with the word dynasty. Take a few students' responses. Expected answers will be the answer alive for as far back as dinosaurs, right? Their reign on the earth is that far. Before humans, right? As long as the dinosaurs, and are still around, okay? This must mean the word dynasty is related to how long something has been around. Students will continue to work with their partner on the remaining reader responses while teacher rotates around the room to check on participation. Okay? All right, so continue that. Then students will work on their own version of the big three, including what surprises me. All right, what did the author think I knew, and what challenged me. So, teacher, I'll say, everybody back to your seat, uh, please, and wait for the next instructions. Thank you. On the sheet, we have these 3 boxes for the big three. All right, this is going to be your exit ticket. We're going to break down, all right, one thing that surprised you, one thing that the author thought you already knew, all right, and then number 3, what challenged or changed or confirmed what you already knew, right? Breaking that down. All right, when done, sit quietly or read quietly. I'll take 3 volunteers to share, one from each category, all right? So again, make those connections. We'll continue to use the signposts in the future. We're going to talk about like another text. Okay, students will be assessed throughout the group activity and the reader response column. Okay, so we'll have the regular assessment. We'll have a story map for the other kids and a poem or a song. Here's an example of the notice and note and the story map.